Hello and welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System and my review for the really excellent xFyro ARIA wireless Bluetooth earbuds or in-ear monitors, IEMs. xFyro are an American company with headquarters based in LA, and they also have offices in New York and Hong Kong. And xFyro contacted me about midway through last year and asked me if I'd be interested to review their new ARIA wireless in-ear monitors. And at first I was a little bit hesitant. I've never really found IEM or in-ear monitors particularly comfortable, and I've often found a problem with them just falling out regularly. And that just drives me crazy and makes it unenjoyable to listen to music or listen to anything. It's just unenjoyable to wear. So I made that declaration clear to xFyro right at the start, and they assured me that I wouldn't have that problem with the ARIAs because they've been designed in a certain way for them to be comfortable and for them to stay or remain in people's ears with no problem. So I thought, well, in that case then maybe I'll be interested. And when I checked the website, there were some really interesting specs and things on the website that made me think, I would like to put these ARIAs through their paces and let you guys know whether they're any good or not. But when the ARIAs eventually arrived, I was very pleasantly surprised with the packaging quality. And when you take a closer look at the ARIA themselves, they are very small, very light, made from a rubbery type of material that feels really hard wearing, and I really like that little puck case. Now this puck case is a really critical and crucial part of the ARIA's design because that is how you charge them. And I think if you keep the ARIA stored in them, you are much less likely to lose them or lose one of them, and even more less likely to leave them in your pocket and put your trousers through the wash. The charging case feels reassuringly well made, and I like how those little LED indicators signify how much battery life the case has got. And that's right, the case holds the battery store and you charge the ARIA headphones from the case. And by all accounts, the case will hold 4 full charges, and it's a fast charge situation, which means 3 hours of playback from just 15 minutes of charging. I like that, that's very cool. xFyro have been really keen for me to get this review made, but I wanted to take my time and get used to the ARIAs because I don't wear IEMs very often. I wanted to make sure I gave them a fair chance, a fair crack of the whip, and I wanted to give myself a fair chance to get used to them and put all their claims to the test as much as possible. And I found this to be particularly important when it comes to sound quality because I saw somewhere in the instruction manual it suggests 200 hours of running time. Now that's a lot of running time. That's probably more time than I've used the ARIAs so far, but that's the other reason why I wanted to give them plenty of time to settle down before making any assessment of their sound quality. And I'm really glad I did that because I feel very differently about them as a product, definitely about their sound quality now as to what I did when I first took them out of the box. And the first thing that I've noticed the difference with over time has been how the buttons respond and react on the sides of the ARIAs. They've got a typical big push button on their side. This can be used to control various different things. Now out of the box, I found that a particularly stiff button and quite difficult to press. Now it could just be the case that I was getting used to them, where they are very small and it's kind of fiddly with my heavyweight fat fingers, but just turning the ARIAs on and off and doing simple things via the main button, I found that to just be very stiff. In stark contrast, I don't feel like that now. That button works absolutely brilliantly. And the next thing to bring up about how I felt about them initially is to do with their design and their comfort. Initially, it felt like they was going right inside my ear to the point where they was touching my brain. The design choice to have the ARIAs go quite deep inside your ear is a critical one for their sound quality and overall isolation based performance, and it's something that I didn't pay enough attention to initially. Maybe the fact that I didn't work this out straight away is the fact that I had an initial first impression of them sound quality wise as being treble, and more treble. They still are quite a trebly headphone now, but when you create the nice tight seal, when you insert the ARIA into your ear, then that brings on the bass. And when the bass comes in, the overall sound balances much better. That treble is recessed some, and overall it's a much nicer and pleasing audible or sonic experience. It really, really is that critical key to unlocking how good the ARIAs can sound. And when you get that seal just right, and when the bass comes in, the treble's still there, and it's still part of the sonic characteristics of how these headphones sounds. But I think the word character, or that's part of their character, is really important in terms of how I would describe them, rather than it being kind of an overriding factor which then becomes a negative for their performance. While I'm mentioning the importance of the bass from the ARIAs is really very good. It's very tight and it's very controlled, depending on what source quality you feed them. And by that, I mean whether you're feeding them MP3, whether you're feeding them full fat WAVs. Now, considering the left and the right ARIAs both sync up wirelessly, they create a perfectly seamless soundstage, and at times really impressively wide soundstage. Overall, I would say vocals or mid-range is decent. At times it's excellent, and at times it's a little recessed, but that can depend on what type of volume you listen to. I generally like to listen to music loud, and you can play the ARIAs plenty loud enough, and when you turn them up, the overall sound quality is really rather punchy with very impressive and very good timing. That was really impressive and surprising to me. And it's sound quality that's good enough to let you drift away into what you're listening to, rather than focus on what you're doing when you're out on the go. That seal, I keep mentioning how important it is to get the seal just right in your ear, and that plays a pivotal role in the noise or the external noise suppression of the ARIAs. It is a suppression rather than a cancellation, which can be, you know, a positive and a negative. I quite like suppression for different circumstances. Obviously that means it's going to let in some wind noise, it's going to let in some, you know, loud traffic noise, maybe some travel noise when you're on the train. But when you're on the train and an announcer calls out that the fact your train's been cancelled, you don't miss that announcement quite so easily when you're only wearing earbuds that suppress the sound. So there is always pros and cons to every situation. To really put the ARIA's sound quality to the test, I decided to compare them to a pair of wired IEM headphones from around the same retail price. And I have here a pair of Bowers & Wilkins C5 S2 models, which retailed, I think, initially for about £150. So they do cost a little bit more than the ARIAs. And in theory, it's not really a fair comparison, because with the ARIAs, you're getting Bluetooth modules, you're getting amplifiers and DACs, whereas the Bowers & Wilkins, for the test purposes, I was powering them straight from my phone. Either way, these are both solutions that are priced around the same sort of price point that kind of would do the same thing for you. So which one sounded better? Well, they definitely sounded different. In fact, I would say they sounded very different. The Bowers & Wilkins being powered directly from my smartphone, a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, definitely was smoother sounding and definitely was more rounded sounding. Some people might think that's a more analog-like sound. There was a lot more bass with the Bowers & Wilkins coming off of my phone, but the bass was really rather bloomy and uncontrolled, and I would put that down to the phone amplifier and DAC quality rather than the headphones themselves. Switching back over to the ARIAs, immediately the bass was leaner, but it was tighter and more controlled. That treble, straight away, that treble character comes through of the ARIAs. There is definitely a ness with the ARIAs compared to the Bowers phone combo, and that ness possibly could be categorized as a glassiness. It's just, there's a certain, I don't know, sonic signature to those, which could be related to the fact that it's a Bluetooth audio connection or other things. And you would notice this if you did an A/B comparison between the two. But if you didn't do an A/B comparison between the two, if you just stuck the ARIAs in your ears and off you went on the go, then I don't think you would ever really pay too much attention to this, because you can still very much enjoy the sound performance of the ARIAs. And it's when you're out, it's when you're on the go, that some of the main strengths of the ARIAs really come through, such as their waterproofing, which I got out in the English fantastic winter weather and tested that out for you, got myself soaking to test that out, and the ARIAs passed water test with flying colours. And the battery life of the ARIAs, I tested them and tested them and I tested them and I tested them, and eventually they ran out of battery. So it took a hell of a lot for me to use them enough for them to run out of battery. So that was reassuring and very impressive. And that little puck case, you know, I've been out, I've been on the train, I've been here and I've been there with that puck case in my pocket, and I think it's just small enough or not thick enough to really make any kind of significant difference or stand out in my pocket. I suppose unless you wear really skinny jeans, in which case anything significant you have in your pocket, lunchbox type area, well, that's going to stick out regardless, isn't it? And I think the last and biggest praise that I can give to the ARIA IEMs is that once I've placed them into my ears, they've stayed in my ears. They haven't fallen out once. Now, I don't do much running or jogging, as you can possibly tell, but I've got a funny feeling I could have jogged, run with them, and they would have stayed in. I could have worn them to the gym or whatever you would want to do, and they would stay securely in your ear. Now, it does sometimes take a minute or so to get them to fit nice and to get that nice, good, snug fit for that nice seal for the best sound quality. And then in the main, once you have, they stay put. Really, really impressive. And another thing that stands out to me about the ARIA IEMs is the fact they are small, they are discreet. So for my final thoughts of the xFyro ARIA wireless Bluetooth in-ear monitors or IEMs, with the exception of making phone calls, I've really enjoyed my time with the ARIA IEMs. Now with phone calls, they work absolutely perfectly. I just find it a little bit odd and strange to make phone calls with two noise suppressing IEMs in my ears. Now you can take one out and it will work with just one, but that's just me. The phone call aspect works absolutely perfectly on them. So that aside, and the treble, that initial treble sound quality, I think the xFyro ARIAs are a really fantastic product. Now there is a huge amount of competition out there for products of this nature, and it's very difficult for a manufacturer to stand out in a market like that. And I think it's even more difficult for a consumer to confidently spend their money with a brand or with one of these manufacturers when there are so many to choose from. All I will say on that front is if the ARIA delivers what you're looking for, a small, discreet, well-built, fully wireless, Bluetooth compatible, waterproof, excellent battery life, comfortable, discreet, affordable, good sounding IEMs, then they should probably be on your shortlist because they are very, very good products, which has surprised me no end. So I hope you've enjoyed this review and I hope you found it useful and helpful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this, reviews on headphones, hi-fi, home cinema, and more. I'll be seeing you all soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.